Are you the seventh son of a seventh son? If so, you could be thrust in an adventure you are not prepared for. Hello and welcome to the Friday Fantasy Show from the Bottled Imp, exploring the realms of fantasy. My name is Ken Boyter and today we are looking at the seventh son of a seventh son. It's the classic phrase, I don't know if you've heard about this. Yeah, if you're a seventh son of a seventh son, there's something mystical about you, something magical. Your destiny is not your own. Now this film came out in 2015 and it is directed by Sergei Bodrov and it's loosely based, I'm just going to add that, loosely based on a novel by Joseph Delaney, and it's called The Spook's Apprentice. Now I have, as a series of books, I think I've got the first three, but I've never read them, and I've always wanted to because the cover has intrigued me. So I didn't know anything about this. In fact, I didn't even know this film was loosely based on that novel. So I was intrigued to find out exactly what they've done. It does star Jeff Bridges, Ben Barnes, and Julianne Moore. So quite a stellar cast. Let's see if they have delivered the seventh son. Seventh son, just exactly what's going on with seventh son. Well, the setup opens up, it's a little bit of a prequel, and there is some sort of knight, sort of magical person who is trying to lock away, and you never see that person just yet, but you hear her. And you you get the feeling that she's some sort of magical person, maybe a witch. Anyway, she's locked down this kind of well-type thing on a hill, and that's kind of the opening. You think, oh, what's going on here? So there's some sort of powerful person being locked away. Not necessarily killed, but locked away. And then there's a seal that happens. This mystic person actually seals up this the top of it. So basically, he's trapping her. And what happens is, inevitably, somebody that's trapped wants to get out. And so they do a nice montage where, obviously, it shows the passing of time. And it's very well done, actually. It's nicely weathered, and the whole steel cage that she's trapped in, that starts to weather. And it's very well done. So, what happens? She breaks free. I think it's because there's a blood moon, and therefore her magical powers are at their most powerful. So she's managed to break free from the magic and the steel cage that she's being kept in. And of course, this witch wants revenge, and she knows exactly who has locked her up. It is a knight or a warrior of a once powerful mystic order who have now fallen kind of in disrepair. There's only one of them left, and that is the one that has trapped her. And it is a guy called Sir Gregory, and he has an apprentice who he's training up. He's got a bit of mysticism. He's got a staff. He's kind of like a warrior wizard, and he's training up an apprentice called William. Now, she's going to want revenge, so she goes after them. Something happens to William. I don't really want to give too much spoilers away, but I'll put it this way. So Gregory, he's mighty mad about that. He's not going to take this lying down. They have a bit of a tussle. She manages to escape, and then he decides that he needs to track her down and basically destroy her. It turns out she is a dark queen who is basically the queen of the witches. I'm assuming in an area, I'm not sure totally of the whole world, but she's very, very powerful. And because we then find out that this warrior wizard, this mystic order, they're tasked with trying to eliminate or kind of manage as well supernatural beings, and there's a lot of them in this world. Magic is rife in this universe, and so he goes off, he sets off, and along the way though, he knows he needs more power than he actually has. So there is a seventh son of a seventh son that he knows of, and he tracks them down, and he actually comes across a boy who's about 17, 18. So he's a young man. And he's the seventh son. The seventh son is a farmhand. And obviously his parents are a bit, what? He's what? And they kind of know what's going on, but they're reluctant to hand him over. until, of course, the father is presented with a big bag of gold coins. So Sir Gregory has his farmhand, and that's played by Ben Barnes, and I'm just trying to look for the name of the farmhand. I haven't got it written down for some reason, and it has slipped my mind. Anyway, more about that later, but maybe why it slipped my mind. So this farmhand goes along with Sir Gregory. He's a bit reluctant, but of course there's a deal been struck. It's been sold to them in effect, and he knows that his parents aren't that rich. And so off he goes to learn how to, fight supernatural beings and detect them, and to learn magic. And like all good apprenticeship stories, he, stumbles at the beginning, and there's a bit of a montage where he's learning, he's training, and obviously he warms into it. He's not massively into it to begin with, but then he grows more and more into it. And then something happens where he's actually convinced, yes, he needs to fulfill his destiny. I do like the way that they've created this world. It doesn't look too clean. Sometimes when you look at fantasy films or medieval, you think, well, actually, hang on, why is everybody in pristine clothes? And all their, the peasants, why are they all looking clean? They've managed to avoid that. It's all kind of nice and dirty and worn, and things look, lived in, which is what you want if you're trying to create a fantasy world that is meant to be real. You need things to be worn down and lived in. So they do a great job about that. And it does have the look and the feel of a really cool medieval fantasy world that has various different creatures involved. And so they've really worked hard to create that, and so that can be applauded for this film. The production values are good. There's, money has been spent. I think it was over $100 million was spent on this, which isn't necessarily a great deal to do with, blockbusters nowadays, but it's a decent amount. You can achieve so much with that type of money. So you would expect productions to be good. So the design of the cities and the villages, they look fantastic. As I say, they give you that real medieval fantasy world that you really do want to go and explore. The costumes and all the armour looks good. It doesn't look out of place, and it does have quite a unique feel to it. It doesn't look like, it's not too generic, a fantasy armour suit. And the weapons, again, there's some quite cool and unusual weapons that they fight with, so that's a nice touch. The creatures, there's plenty of different types of creatures. They don't just stick, it's not elves and orcs, and they have gone out their way to find other different types of creatures. And I was kind of drawn into this world, and I was curious about it. It did make me want to find out and go along with the story. And it suddenly felt that is this based on a novel? This feels like it's based on a novel just because of the way that the world had been built. There's obviously thought and care has gone into it. Everything seems real, and there seems to be a history to it. And so when I found out that it was actually based on a novel, which I found out after the film, I was pleasantly surprised. And I thought, that's good. You can kind of tell it has been based on a novel, because there's just an author can spend a lot longer building up a world than, say, a screenwriter, where film production could be quite quick, I guess, in some respects, and they may not take the time and effort to actually create everything to make it look really, really realistic. The cinematography is gorgeous. There's some nice panning shots, nice epic feel to it. So again, you can tell it's been heavily influenced by Lord of the Rings, but hey, who wouldn't want to be influenced by Lord of the Rings? Because they did such a great job with that film that you're gonna kind of draw on that when you're making your own fantasy film. The acting is strong. There's got a good cast, a good supporting cast. There's no really weak links, although Jeff Bridges, who plays this warrior mystic wizard, he's like a cross between Gandalf and Catweasel, and he does something which like juts his chin out, and it does like this rubbery sort of. It's like Wurzel Gummidge. He's like, I will, and he puts on an accent, and the accent's okay. It's almost like he's trying to be Gandalf, but he does it a little bit over the top. So initially it's a bit annoying, but then he kind of settles down, and you kind of put it to the back of your mind. So that's a little bit of a shame, because I think he's just trying too hard with that. But saying that, he's a good actor, so you kind of forgive it. It's not like the acting's bad, and then he's got this rubbery face that won't sit still. Julianne Moore, she's great as the evil queen. Again, it's not too cliched. There are a few nuances in there. And Ben Barnes, who plays the farmhand, the apprentice, the seventh son, he's fine. He plays, obviously he's young, he's naive. He's meant to come across as somebody that doesn't know about this world, about magic, and he's only known the farm. but I hate to say this, he came across a little bit dull, just a little bit, where you kind of think I needed a little bit more charisma for that role, just a little bit more, because I wanted to care for him. And strangely enough, Kit Harington of Jon Snow, Game of Thrones fame, he crops up. He's the original apprentice where something happens to him, and he's not in the, is that a spoiler? Well, he's not in the film. He just crops up right at the beginning, and you think, yes, that's the apprentice we want. I kind of wanted to know more about that apprentice. So it's a shame. He kind of teased us with a more charismatic apprentice, and then took them away. So I was slightly disappointed with that. But apart from that, yeah, the cast was strong. It was well cast. They chose wisely for the actors to portray the characters they wanted to portray. The CGI and special effects are very good, very solid attempt. Nothing seemed rubbery or too out of place. And they did a good job of creature design, as I say, and implementing that. The creatures felt real. They felt like, again, taking from Lord of the Rings, that you could see the hair move on them, and they felt they had weight, and they felt fierce. If one of them was roaring in your face, they had the effect where the wind blows in the character's hair, and goop was dripping down their mouths. Very realistic, very well done. So there's no complaint there with that. And they do manage to put some themes in there, and maybe because it was based on a book, and books generally have heavier, weightier themes than films, and yeah, that's an argument for another day maybe, but it was nice to see that this wasn't just hero, quest, go off, kill some stuff, get some loot, and then go back to the tavern. There was actually some substance to this, which I was very pleasantly surprised at, because I wasn't sure which way this was going to go. Was it going to be a cliché sword and sorcery type film that I'm not a massive fan of? Or was it going to be a little bit more in-depth? Was I actually going to feel something for the characters? The themes explored are, there was destiny, obviously the seventh son of the seventh son. It's your destiny, and can you change your destiny? I guess not, or are you just delaying it? Or if you think you're changing it, but the actual path you're meant to be going on is the same as the one you're changing. So are you just drawing closer to your destiny, but you think you're getting further away from it? And at what point do you actually accept that this is your destiny, and do you then embrace it and really take it on and make it your own? And obviously you've got, one of the witches actually says you can't hide from destiny. And I thought, that's quite profound. I quite like that. And I probably agree. Another theme is a person's nature. And, it's that whole, are you born good? Are you born evil? Or, is there corrupting influences as you grow up? Or, every single day you may be phalanged? That's a new word. I'm not sure it's actually family friendly. But anyway, challenged is what I meant. You're challenged with decisions, and it might not be like obvious that it's going to be an evil decision, but it might be one that's bordering there, that's taking you against your nature. If you're predominantly good and you like doing good things, but yet you're faced with a dilemma that kind of forces you to pick the lesser of two evils in that situation. And how much does that play on your soul if you do go against your nature? And can you just put it to the back of your mind, or bury it, or will it eventually come back to haunt you? So they did a good job of that. And also, there's a love story that runs through it, which probably is going to be there, isn't it? It's a film, let's face it. And so it does look at, does love conquer all, and does it, embrace everything? And can you then, no matter what your differences, I was going to say, no matter what the differences are. So there's kind of like a Romeo and Juliet love story tragedy that's running through there. And I did like the fact that, yes, it wasn't as cheesy as they could have made this film. They didn't shy away from maybe taking a less obvious route, so that was good. And there were lots of fantasy elements. They took it seriously, which I think is why I personally was impressed by what they managed to do. They didn't just go, we can just throw anything in there because it's fantasy. They did a good job in creating a realistic world, so that was good. The special effects were great when they did the creatures, and they didn't go for the obvious creatures in fantasy. And I think that's probably down to the fact that it was a book, because, I guess there's more time to research fantasy, I don't know. But anyway, it just had that feel to it. There's a good mythical quality to it, like it was a folk story being told to you. So overall, I really did think they did a good, strong, solid effort. It's a good fantasy film. I've certainly seen worse. It's not going to blow your mind. You're not going to go, wow, this is totally unique and totally original. I really am into it. And for me, it fell short just because I wasn't emotionally connected to the characters. And it's a shame because everything else was there. They had pretty much everything else. And I thought about this and I thought, why am I not connected to these characters? And I think I look back at Lord of the Rings, and with Lord of the Rings, you know who Frodo and Bilbo Baggins are. They're your way into Middle-earth, and you can identify with them. You know about them. You learn about their lives. You learn about their backgrounds, their loves, their passions. Here, it's almost like we don't see that. And if we do, it's kind of too late. It's too far into the story. I need to know about it early on so I can invest emotionally into it. So I didn't really invest in the characters, and therefore I didn't actually care for them too much. But I was impressed, and at the time I looked back, I did a bit of research. The critics didn't really like it. They gave it sort of like a 3 out of 10. And I think that's maybe a little bit harsh. I'd give it maybe a 5 or a 6. I would recommend checking it out because it is, as I say, there's lots of other good things going on, but just that emotional connection for me just let this film down, which was a shame because I feel like they missed an opportunity. They had a good cast, a good script, it was directed well. The musical score was a little bit over the top. I felt it brought a little bit cheesiness to it. But apart from that, this was a good attempt. It was a good, solid film, and I'm glad I watched it. As I say, I've seen worse films. So yeah, I would check this out. It's one of these films, if it's Sunday afternoon and you think, yeah, I want to watch a film, I don't know really what to watch, this would fit the gap perfectly. That's The Seventh Son. Seventh Son. I'm not 100% sure why they changed the title. That didn't really inspire me. It's like Seventh Son. You know, and if you don't know about the Seventh Son, you just think, what the hell's all that about? It doesn't really grab you, it doesn't really sound exciting. Whereas The Spook's Apprentice, well, that's slightly different. You can think, oh, what's a spook and an apprentice? So I don't know why they changed that. And if they had kept that, then maybe more people might have gone to see the film. Although it did actually, I think it made a profit, only just. Anyway, that's Seventh Son. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. Remember, we do have our fantasy news show that's every Wednesday, and also obviously we've got other reviews on our YouTube channel, and of course you can check us out on social media, so please leave any comments after the episodes, and remember, keep it unreal, especially if you're a seventh son.